Hello, ladies. Welcome to this session. Thank you for being here. Let's get started on entrepreneurship. So I want to start with 3 rules of entrepreneurship. Rule number 1 of entrepreneurship is straightforward and it's simple, but it is not easy. If it was easy, then everybody would be doing it. And if everybody was doing it, then it wouldn't be as valuable. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is passion, purpose, determination are crucial for building and launching a business. That's rule number 2. Rule number 3 is along with the passion, purpose, and determination, we also need to have a good strategy, a growth mindset, and a strong work ethic to grow a sustainable, profitable, long-term brand or business. So having mentioned those 3 rules of entrepreneurship, broadly speaking, there are 2 different kinds of entrepreneurship. One is lifestyle entrepreneurship. The second is performance-based entrepreneurship. As the name suggests, lifestyle is just that. It's based around the person, the man or the woman who has started the business to be more passion-driven and the person's goals or values or skills or circumstances. And there's a lot more emphasis on work-life balance and flexibility. And it's oftentimes one or smaller teams. That's lifestyle business. And then performance-based business has a lot more stress or pressure to perform both profits, and there's larger teams, and there's often investors involved, and there's franchises. So generally speaking, these 2 are the 2 different types of entrepreneurship. Now, which one do you think is better? The answer is it depends, and neither one is right or wrong. It depends on the person and the person's goals and aspirations and values and skills and circumstance, as I mentioned. But I coined a term called Soulpreneurship, which is a combination of lifestyle as well as performance-based. The ingredients for the recipe of Soulpreneurship are pretty much similar. There's passion, there's purpose, and there is, impact, community impact to give back to the community. But there's also another ingredient that is crucial for Soulpreneurship. It is self-awareness, just being aware of ourselves as an entrepreneur and bringing that whole authentic self to work is what Soulpreneurship is all about. Some of the commonalities between all 3 types of entrepreneurship are passion, purpose, and then self-awareness. So I wanted to share my own story of how I found my passion. So I was 6 years old. I was growing up in southern India, and I always enjoyed being in the kitchen. It was a safe space. It was my playground. That's where I learned how to make spice blends because my family situation was a little chaotic, and so I always found myself gravitating towards the kitchen and loving spending time there. So those were my early childhood memories. When I moved here in 2001, I was on a dependent visa. So I volunteered at the Salt Lake Chamber of Commerce for a couple of years. Later, I was hired as the marketing manager, and then I became the director of the Women's Business Center. So after working there for 8 years, I wanted to pursue my own passion, which was food, as well as marketing, because my background, I have a master's in marketing from India also, and entrepreneurship, because as a young girl, I saw my grandparents, both my grandparents, being successful businessmen, and the kind of respect that they had. It was, I think subconsciously, that was an aspiration of mine, an interest of mine, entrepreneurship. So after like 3 years of deep soul searching, I found that out to be food. So in 2010, I quit my job as the director of the Women's Business Center and started my own line of spice blends and had them at the Salt Lake Farmers Market. They did really well. So the following year, I started my first restaurant called Saffron Valley in South Jordan. And over the course of next 10 years, I started about 10 different restaurants. I was very driven, and I definitely went after my passion. And even till date, I am very much involved with the restaurants, and I have a nonprofit called Rice Culinary Institute that provides free culinary training to refugee women. Everything I do will have an underlining of the food aspect of it and the people aspect of it. So I've kind of tried to build like an ecosystem that all feed into each other. I have a bakery that does Indian style chai and pastries and such. So clearly that has has definitely been a passion of mine. Now, the purpose part, how I found my purpose. When I started my restaurants, my purpose was to serve people through food, as it should be, as a restaurateur. And we help people create memories, and we help people experience the rich, vibrant culture of India. I felt pretty strongly that was my purpose. But as I evolved and as I got in touch with my own authentic self, my purpose evolved to be more of ending the suppression of women globally. That was my purpose. And again, it ties back to my childhood because I come from a very patriarchal family and I was in an arranged marriage. I left the marriage during COVID 2020. And so it became very clear that that's my purpose. Now, my purpose has evolved. It still is serving people through food, and I use food to provide culinary skills to these women, but it's become much bigger. So I think a big part of what our passions are, what our purpose is, goes back to our childhood. And if we can take the time to reflect on that, I think it can have a profound impact on who you are and what you bring to the world. That's kind of been my passion, my purpose story. Now, self-awareness. Again, during COVID, when I had an ankle fracture, I was in the couch for a few weeks and no longer running away and busy with my work. I was using work as a coping mechanism all these years is what I came to find out. And from that point onwards, I realized that all of the accomplishments that I had, all of the success, all of the awards was from an ego perspective, which is, the drive and the achievement. It helped me realize that. And since then, I've been more soul-centered in my approach to business. And it's made all the difference. Work is now joyful and it's a renewed sense of purpose and passion, realizing that what I was doing all these years was from an ego perspective and now step into my soul-centeredness. And a lot of it has to do with self-awareness and my daily practice. If you can take 10 minutes every morning to check in with yourself, to listen to that inner voice and to set intention for your day, I think a lot of answers just unfold naturally because we're so busy, we're so always running, always doing, always stressed that we do not give ourselves 10 minutes every day. And if we can't do that, then I think all the success we're creating is meaningless. That would be my one tip. If you walk away from here, just give yourself 10 minutes, whether it's through journaling or meditating or just sitting in silence. Let's do this worksheet so we can find out what your passions are and see any patterns, see any, maybe you have an interest in fashion or social justice or food. If there's any commonalities, anything that seems like a pattern, probably you have an interest in that and you love to do that. So that's one way of finding your passion. But once you figure out what your passion is and what do you then do, right? How do you make it profitable? So there are several organizations in town, for example, the Women's Business Center at the Salt Lake Chamber. And I've given some websites on this sheet on the back. They're the best resources for anything startup or to grow a business in the state of Utah. A lot of those programs are free as well. So having figured out what the passion is, now you want to do some market research as to whatever the product or service you want to provide. What is the need for that? How big is that market size? And then do some research on who the ideal customer would be and to just get to know them so well. Oftentimes, it's like serving our younger selves. At least that's how it's been for me. So everything I do in my Soulpreneur model is serving my younger self. Even when I'm serving these refugee women, it goes back to my own experience of being here, an immigrant, and not having the opportunity to work. Whatever your younger self has been and whatever you've overcome to be here today is something we want to give back to because that's the area we have most knowledge and empathy for. With the help of these organizations or your own, you can put together a simple business plan that has in-depth the product and the service and the pricing strategy and the marketing strategy and the financial projections, launching your online presence as well as then networking and growing your business is a journey and it's meant to take time. Some businesses take up to 10 years to really have a solid foundation and to scale, but nobody sees that. Like people are quick to recognize the success, but the work and the hard work and the grit and the determination that go into making it are all behind the scenes. But just be prepared for that. Just know that the greater the risks, the larger the rewards, they say. But at least being realistic about what your inner values and goals. That might not be for everybody, but I think soulpreneurship is such a universal concept that it's not even about entrepreneurship. It's about how we show up in our lives and to bring our whole selves to whatever it is that we do. And lastly, I like to say that 3 things are, again, important for entrepreneurship: the mindset, the strategy, and the technical skills. So the technical skills and the strategy can be learned. There's so much information online, as well as through these organizations, that you can get a framework, a blueprint, knowledge about how to grow and scale a business. But mindset, it's all your work, your inner work, is 70% that impacts your success rate, in my opinion. And that number could vary, but I think mindset is huge in order to start, grow sustainable, profitable business that brings joy to you and you're able to give back to the world. With that, I'd like to conclude this discussion on entrepreneurship. Hope it was helpful, and I'm open to questions, or let's connect online. My handle is Lavanya Mahate on LinkedIn or Instagram, and I would love to stay in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.